I'm Jeff Cornwall, and this is the Entrepreneurial Mind. Today our guest is James Fields with Concept Technology. We'll be back to talk with him after this. Welcome, James.
Thank you, Dr. Cornwall. Glad to be here.
Well, so you and I have known each other for probably about 8-10 years. I know that you've been real active in the local chapter of EO here in town, and I used to do some training for you guys, and we got to know each other. So I know a little bit about your background, but talk about Concept Technology. So you guys help with security and help desk and kind of the mundane, you might call it sort of yet critical backroom kind of stuff that people need for their businesses and their technology. Is that accurate?
Correct. The company's up to about 200 employees that don't need to invest in a full-time IT department, can outsource the whole chunk of it to companies like mine.
Okay.
In particular mine.
So you can do everything beyond just the security and the help desk kind of things.
Absolutely.
You can be the whole technology. What's the lion's share of what you do? Because I know you primarily, you do a lot of work in security, I know, and a lot of work in help desk. Is that sort of the lion's share of what goes on?
That is a lot, but it's everything from sitting at the boardroom table and helping roadmap out what the IT strategy is for the next 3 years and making sure it's aligned with the business's goals and objectives, and then sourcing and implementing new solutions and supporting those, supporting the users, helping with security and compliance and disaster recovery.
Gotcha. And so you're not dealing typically with technology companies, but you're dealing with more traditional businesses that need that technology.
Correct.
Back room. So how did you get into this? How did this business start? Because it's a pretty specific niche.
It is. Well, in full disclosure, it was a careless and reckless decision for me to start the company because I had really not a good idea of what I was doing. A lot of people that are in our business worked for a company like Concept Technology and left to start their own.
Right. Here's what they don't do very well. We're going to do it better.
Right. I'm going to make an incremental improvement to the way my last company did it. I'd worked in the data center space and telecommunications, and it did some project management and some sales and sort of kind of covered the whole spectrum of arenas of action and enjoyed them all a little bit, but didn't particularly excel at any of them. And the one thing at all the companies I worked for is there were things that they did that were admirable and things that I felt were sort of borderline, not super ethical or not really as client focused or as team focused as they should be. And I realized at about age 30 that I wanted to stop working for other people and start my own job. And I remember coming home to my wife at the time and said, "Hey, I want to quit my job and start a company." And she said, "That's great. I support you. What's your company going to do?" And I'm like, "Well, I think what we're going to do is provide IT services to small businesses." And she says, "Do you know how to do that?" And I'm like, "Not exactly.
But what could possibly go wrong?"
What could possibly go wrong?
Right.
And I'm like, "But what we are going to do is that we're going to be, all cards face up on the table, and we're going to have this guiding principle of always acting in our client's best interest, with the goal of saying, hey, we want you to be a client for 10 years from now. We want you to look back at this relationship and think about it fondly, not what are our gross margins going to be this quarter with this new client." And so it was just me for a while, and then I got enough clients to hire somebody and then hire another person, and now we're at 50, 60 folks. And
talk about that growth. I mean, talk about the transitions from the first few people to what were some of those challenges? Because you had never grown a company. You'd never started a company before.
No, I never managed people before.
And now you're growing this business from a handful of people that could figure stuff out together, probably in a room that you shared as an office, to now having layers of management. And I mean, talk about that transition and how you navigated that.
Yes, it's exhausting just reflecting on that, but it's really the one thing that's the most challenging about it is that I'm really, really, really great at my job 18 months ago. And now I have a whole new job, and that's never ended. And so every year really sort of brings a new opportunity for me to fail magnificently, because it's kind of like the Peter principle, right? And you work for huge companies, and it's generally filled with people that hit the first job that they're not particularly good at. And I'm waiting for that to happen to me. But the one thing that
but you own the company, so you can forgive yourself at that point.
I suppose. But it's really been a challenge developing leadership, which has recently been sort of the bulk of my job.
So and I want to talk about that. So back up a little bit. What were some of the very early challenges you had as you were starting to grow and add employees? And it was kind of one of those, oh my goodness moments. I didn't know what I didn't know kind of things. And kind of how did you work through some of those early challenges?
Some of the first challenges were not having a really clear vision on getting people that were a great culture fit.
Right.
And not even recognizing that that's a thing that we should be thinking about.
You were hiring technically good people.
Yes. So we'd be like, this person really understands how, Active Directory works and Microsoft Exchange servers work. And so we ended up with people that were, they would maybe go a little rogue, or they would, not be as great with clients. And so we were quick to rip them out of the organization. But it was really a struggle hiring folks. The other part that was really a struggle is that we didn't have time to invest in the hiring process, because with 2, 3, 4 people, and we're all running and gunning 10 hours a day.
And you're hiring some specialists that are in short supply anyway.
Yes.
So how did you tackle that first problem with culture? How did you start to screen these people out and make sure they were going to fit into your organization?
Well, we created a sort of 10-point hiring process that has, which is actually, it's one of the things that I think we've done really, really well is this hiring process, which is probably what credits my company being as great as it is, which has nothing to do with me. It's full of great people that are doing great work.
Sure.
And but we focus a lot on culture. I mean, we start one with sort of disc profiling, and we want to make sure that we've got people that are sort of the right mindset for the job.
And so do you have formal assessments you do?
We do.
Do you outsource that to someone, or?
No, we do all that. We do all that ourselves, and we developed it all ourselves. Not the disc profile, but all of our other testing we developed ourselves. And then all the way up to the end where we have sort of a long form group interview. And so anything other than sort of unanimous consent of, hey, this is somebody that we want on the team, not this is somebody that's going to be able to execute the functions of this job. That's already been determined.
Sure.
But is this somebody who's going to make a good impression with our clients? Are they going to be able to integrate and thrive as a member of our team? Are they going to make this company better?
Right.
If everybody doesn't agree on all of those points, then we might not have the right person.
So is there ever a moment along the way where you or somebody else goes, God, we really need this person. I think we need to shortcut this and just bring somebody in?
Oh, it's so tempting. It's so tempting. No, there have been 2 instances where on the group interview, there were a couple people that were like, I'm not so sure. And we've gone in and said, hey, we think you should maybe give them a 90-day trial, whatever. And by the way, in both cases, the person did not work out. And so lesson learned. But no, we really, it's so ingrained in our culture that we can't shortcut.
So it's a fully consensus basis of hiring then?
Yes. In fact, we've got a guy that is in Wisconsin that's going to, we want to hire, and he's going to move here. And we're going to fly him in for 2 hours for this group interview, because we can't cut it out.
Which for a big company is no big deal, but for a smaller firm like you, that's a big deal, flying somebody down and just for an interview like that. So talk about leadership development. Now, that means you're now getting to a new phase in your growth, and you're having to kind of have leadership be something beyond just you. How are you working to start to integrate some leadership skills into your team?
Well, there's sort of a couple of things. And I use the word leadership pretty specifically a concept technology to not mean management, right? And it's not where you are on the org chart. And so for me, leadership is you just made this thing better, and it's going to be better after you're not here anymore.
Right.
And sort of anybody can do that, right? And it's...
I see. So what you're focusing on initiative and things with everybody in this case then?
Yes, right. So
how are you doing that? What do you have training programs or?
Well, we do, but what we also do is we give people a lot of space and freedom. And there's companies are sort of all over this spectrum. And you come work for us, we owe you a very clear picture of what success looks like in your job and the freedom and the space and the resources to achieve that success. And really the rest is up to you, which for the right people is liberating and rewarding and energizing.
Sure.
And then for the wrong people, they're going to feel like they're on a sort of wobbly raft in the middle of the ocean and it's not going to be comfortable.
Right, right. So are you starting to kind of look ahead and sense what might be the next leadership or rather growth challenge that you're going to face and your company's going to face?
Yeah, so there are a few, and so we're big enough that, and while it's a relatively flat organization, we do have to have sort of formalized management structures in place, and historically we've promoted from within. And part of the drive for me the lion's share of the drive for me to grow this company is that if we can grow the company, then we grow the pyramid and we can create career path and growth opportunities for folks. If we stopped at 20 people, everybody'd have the same job, making basically the same amount of money, and then they'd go and move on and we would just roll along, and that's not fun. And so I want to give people an opportunity to grow and develop within the company, or grow and develop sort of up and out of the company, which happens.
And so what are the other challenges that you're facing going forward? You've got this challenge in terms of developing management talent. What else are you kind of seeing ahead in terms of what you're going to have to do as CEO of this growing company?
The Stephen Covey habits of 7 habits of successful people, and one of them is sort of that area of concern and areas of control. And so there's a bunch of areas of concern. So one, we're in the technology space, which is growing and changing by leaps and bounds. And so what does that mean for companies like us going forward? There are all of the copier companies in America are getting into our line of business. Not just the local folks, but Konica Minolta and the big companies are getting into it. It's probably only a matter of time before Dell and HP get into this. And so is that going to sort of commoditize this industry and drive prices down? There's a whole bunch of stuff that nobody really knows. So I spent a fair amount of time sort of being a student of this industry and seeing what other companies around the country are doing and what other best practices.
So you're moving much more into strategy in terms of your thought process and what you do.
Exactly.
Excellent. Well, thanks, James, for coming in today. It's so good to talk with you again, and look forward to having you back sometime soon.
Such a pleasure. Thank you.